If you're lazy and you're bitter and you need a babysitter, don't call me up to me with your demands. My fans support me like a cult. You're Red Riding Hood, I'm the wolf. You don't like that, so I flip you off. Now you're the wolf.
Hello and welcome to East Coast DNA. I'm your host, Darcy Walsh, and today's guest is East Coast native, but you're currently calling in from Ontario?
Yeah, currently in Ottawa, but I grew up in Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Yes. So I'm going to introduce you as Brockway Biggs. So thank you very much. But for anyone on the East Coast that maybe thinks you're familiar but can't place you quite right yet, it could be because you used a different stage name when you were on the East Coast. You were under the name Pimp T.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the first few years was as Pimp T, so people might know me more under that name. But
Some of the names that I saw you associated with in the earlier part of your rap career were names that I knew from East Coast more so, probably just because of my familiarity with East Coast artists. So I did find that kind of interesting, but since you've kind of rebranded up in Ontario and it's been a while that you've been up there, I'm curious with the name change, where did the name Brockway Biggs come from?
um, yeah, I guess like when I was Pimp T, there's a bit of a uh, connotation with the whole pimp thing, and I tend to be like a pretty nice guy. I'm not really going for the whole misogyny thing. So
Mhm.
at a certain point, I felt like maybe it was distracting things more. So um, I just decided to make a switch, and Brockway was where my mom's family grew up. We still have family
Okay.
there. For people who aren't familiar, it's a spot in between sort of Fredericton and St. Stephen. It's got a private airstrip, so it's not the middle of nowhere, but not very well known. So that was the Brockway part, and then I happened to be living at Biggs Manor or
Oh,
Baron Biggs,
okay.
and so I just took that and went with those two names and came Brockway Biggs.
And so I did mention that you've been at it for some time, but when you reached out, it's to kind of help promote a little bit of a relaunch for you. I'm curious, despite earlier successes, you did have nearly a decade kind of away from the scene, and I realize it was related to health issues. But I'm wondering if you could tell us anything about what kind of led to that, and you don't have to get into personal details of what you're doing and then the time away, but I'm curious what led to you not being able to do it anymore, and then all these years later, what led to you come back into the game?
Yeah, so I used to be like I'd like to say pretty involved in the scene in Atlantic Canada and then hip hop in general. I was doing publicity campaigns for some folks like Classified and Scratch Bastard, Eternia, some names people have gone on to see success, which has been great. And I used to put out an annual hip hop compilation every year of some of my favorite indie hip hop albums. It was Canadian rap future superstars, and so I was doing the stuff. It was sort of like a Spotify playlist before there
Hmm.
were there was Spotify, and I would send it out to campus radio to help promote some of these artists. But then, yeah, in 2010, 2011, I had some concussions, and I had a really bad concussion where I had to disappear. Like I couldn't function like I had been, and it was I mean it was really hard because music was such a big part of my life to have to step away. But it was all about just trying to make it through the days because with the headaches and fatigue and stuff like that, it was challenging. So I had some music in the works, which I've gone back and revisited a little bit, but in some ways, like so, I was forced to take a break. In some ways, it's not very often that an artist who's active is forced to take a step back. And so
Hmm.
it's been interesting to kind of go back and look at my earlier works with sort of fresh eyes, and even look at where I was at the time of my concussion.
Hmm.
Um, and so as I've been improving with the post concussion stuff, I started to dabble with getting back into music because I love it. um, I mean, realistically, there's not a ton of artists who've made it as their career. So um, I, you know, I realize that this is more of a hobby.
Hmm.
But with that sort of getting back into it, I look back and some of I performed a lot of live shows, like over 150
Yeah.
live shows while I was out there. And the one thing I liked doing was sort of the fun, more upbeat stuff. So I have a song called Super Dude,
Hmm.
which Joe Rum Bombay from Halifax remixed, and another song, Shake Your Caboose. And from that, I just I like that. Like, it shows getting everyone to throw their thumbs up was fun, but at a typical hip hop show, that doesn't always track with
Yeah.
people. So I started to like look at how could I do some like the typical hip hop stuff, but then do some stuff that would be fun. So I started doing some kids stuff as Mr. Super Dude. So I now have another alter ego, Mr. Super Dude,
Hmm.
and yeah, the response to that has been it's fun. People have been reach out and say like, "Oh, we think you found your sort of calling or what you maybe should have been doing back in the day." Um, so yeah, so that's probably the long-winded answer to your question, but it's really exciting to be involved with it again, and even to reconnect with some people that I collaborated with back in the day.
And the super dude persona, you're maintaining that now to work like children's parties and events like the community events, I assume.
I'd like to work up to that right now. It's
Hmm.
still performing live is still really draining because I still deal with post concussion
Sure.
symptoms. But yeah, that would be like what I would love for the next step to be, because performing live is one of my favorite parts
Hmm.
of making music. And I think just based on the response from my son and daughter and their friends, yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun um, performing for younger audiences.
And so, what was the motivation to go back and take the song from the last album back in, like, was it, when was the last album out? 2000 and,
7, yeah.
so
So
2007, you took a song from then and remixed it now. So, is this like something that you just did in 2024?
no, this has been in the works for a little while.
Okay.
So before my concussion, I had like a little dedicated office for doing music stuff. I had some thank you notes from some artists that I enjoyed working with up, and some different stuff like that. But I realized after the concussion, I kind of had to pack it away because it was sort of a reminder of what I
Yeah.
was missing. But before I packed it away, I'd always wanted to do a video for the song that I just put out, "Clap Your Hands," because it's got a lot of good punchlines and some braggadocio, and I'd collected up some stuff for it. So before I packed everything away, I shot some video footage, and it sat around. I did a little bit of editing here and there, and it'd been sitting there. So finally, it got finished off. I think in 2021, the video footage was ready as a video. Um, and then I was like, I'll release it. But then my friend Tom, DJ Loke Dog, he was getting more into making beats. He's living in Taiwan right now. And I said, hey, do you want to freshen this up and do a remix? And so he came up with the beat for the remix for Clap Your Hands, and I really dug it. And so, we tweaked it and stuff, and just sort of was waiting for the right time to put it out in amongst the kids stuff, because life's a little bit busy. And
Hmm.
so yeah, it's been a process. You see these people nowadays, you're supposed to put out songs every month and stay consistent. Well, I've been taking the slow path, and yeah, just trying to enjoy sort of the path and whatnot.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's exciting to finally get it out.
And so now that you've had it out and you're getting some feedback, little bit of traction off of it. Are you feeling an appetite to dive into maybe creating some new material that's like new lyrics, everything? Or is there something that you want to do that maybe you didn't finish with a project from back in the day?
I've got so many projects I'd like to do. It's a matter of time. So I have a few new kids songs that have been out, and I've got um, a few that are done, one video done. So just looking at balancing some different stuff to release that. I would love to get back to making the non kids hip hop stuff, and I do have from what would have been my fourth album, I do have songs that were sort of in the works.
Mm.
Um, I'd like to go back and revisit and sort of finish off. There's one in particular that I'd like to get to. There was a DMC winning DJ Wondercut. He's from BC. He passed away a couple of years ago. Rest in peace. But he had come up with a beat based on my great uncle was Don Messer, who was like a fiddling
Yeah.
legend in the coast. So through talking to this DJ Wondercut, he sampled some Don Messer records and came up with this beat, um, primarily all based off Don Messer tracks. So that's one of the ones that I had almost done that I'd like to go back and finish it off and get it out there.
Do you have the track for that still saved somewhere then?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would
So
be amazing to hear actually.
yeah, it's pretty fun. So originally, I think the track was just sort of some random. Well, it didn't really have a good focus, so
Hmm.
I started to go back at it, and I wanted to try and do it like a Don Messer biography kind of rap because I thought that'd be kind of fitting. But yeah, that makes it a bit more challenging, lyric wise and writing wise, to fit a biography
Oh,
into.
certainly. If you ever do go back and finish that project, be sure to pop me off an email or reach out to me on social media or something. I definitely would be interested to hear that. But aside from that, I am curious, what are your plans for 2025 then?
Um, yeah, so right now I've got two kids songs done. So really the focus is on the Mr. Super Dude stuff.
Yeah.
We have a song called Potty Slam that's toilet related,
Yeah.
popular with kids. Not something I probably would have released as Brockway Biggs or Pimp T, but you never know. Um, so there's a video done for that. I started to dabble in this AI stuff. Has me torn. I know different artists are torn as well because there's making a living off it these days off music. It can be challenging, and so there's that temptation to cut your costs a little bit by dipping into AI stuff. Um, but there's also like that feel of not being authentic, if you know what I
Hmm.
mean. Not being part of community, which was such a big part of music for me. Um, but for the Potty Slam video, I dabbled with some AI animation stuff to just piece it together because dropping $300 to $500 on an animated video when
Yeah.
you're making $10-15 off streaming. Um, it's just one of those things. But still, for the album artwork, I have a friend named Freya that we've been friends for a long time. She does artwork and some animation stuff, so I've still been going to her for the artwork because I like that
Yeah,
fresh
that's I think
artwork.
that's perfect to keep that blend because AI is not something that's going away. Like it's the box has been open, it's here.
Yeah,
And I mean, I use it myself, so I'm a little biased to be 100% honest. But as far as generative AI, like to actually create your content for you, I've played with it more than used it, but I do use it slightly as a tool. And I think that if you're starting with something that you've created, you've got the concept and the framework, and you're building on it, and you're using it to help you get to that end goal. Sure, at this point, that's perfectly acceptable usage. Like if you're making a reel for Instagram and you use a filter or a transition, is that any different really? Like as far as
Mhm.
using a tool to help you get to your end goal. But yeah, there is some conflict when you start getting into how much it can do for you, and it's still not advanced enough that you can't. In most cases, you can tell that a computer had its hand in building the final product.
Right.
So you still need to go back and put your own little dirt on it just to make sure that it has that human feel.
Yeah, and in general, in talking with people, they're like, if you are comfortable making a living and you can support other people, then that's where I think any artist would love to be.
Hmm.
But until you're at that point, in general, in talking with people, they're like, leverage the tools that you've got, as long as you're authentic about it,
Yes.
um, and, and yeah, go for it. But like you mentioned, the AI, especially generating video.
Hmm.
My son, who's 9, will often come in and be like, "Can I see the latest ones?" Because it's there's like 3 arms coming out of like a person, or there's like a leg that's missing, and they pick
Hmm.
up on stuff. I'll be like, "I like this clip." And my son will be like, "Did you notice there's a leg missing on
Hmm.
the person in the back?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I noticed that."
Yeah,
So
you need that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but it is like there's so many different AI video generation tools out there now. It's a little bit overwhelming,
Hmm.
but it's kind of fun to sort of plug away at like a video plot and try and well, I should say sometimes it's fun, other times it's super frustrating to try and get it to do what you want. Like
Yeah.
say getting someone to do the worm. Um,
Yeah.
that took a little bit of trying some stuff. And,
Yeah,
yeah,
see, it's not doing it completely from scratch. We still have our hands into the mechanics to make sure that it's coming out the way we want it.
yeah. So yeah, just talking about this next year. So there's the Potty Slam song. I have another song called Baby Boogie that's almost done. I had someone do a remix of a song called Birdie Chicken Cow. Yeah, I'm not sure when that's going to get released. Someone else that an old friend's working on a remix for Potty Slam. I have another song, Shake You Loose Tooth, that's pretty near done. And then back in 1996, chemistry grade 11, I wrote a song called Ice Ice Water.
Yeah.
Um, Chemistry bonus project. It's the first song I played live at some different spots back in the late 90s. So I dug that out of the archives. I have some of the source still kicking around. So um, I've just been looking at, because people still remember that song, even though it's
Yeah.
like almost 30 years old. So just looking at maybe revamping that or refreshing it because it's got some. That's how I remembered stuff for my exam because some of the stuff that was on there was yeah, good chemistry knowledge, stuff like exothermic
Oh
and
yeah.
endothermic and free energy to delta G, just Dalton stuff, all this stuff. So yeah, there's that. We'll see. Just I plug away slowly at it and try and have fun and reconnect with people.
Hmm. Now, I'm curious, like as you're saying you're a parent and you also are creating children's songs as well in the genre of choice for you. So, has there been any indication where you obviously get feedback from a very young generation? Has anyone maybe shown a little spark of interest where maybe there's a little bit of a legacy act in the future? Is any future rappers in the horde there?
Uh, I don't know. For a
Yeah,
little while at age 8,
yeah,
my
yeah,
friends were making some raps, but that seems to have tailed off now. It's interesting how they my son at least seems self conscious, and um, so with my music, it's probably the best compliment I've been paid. One of his friends was over, and they're like, your music is so what was it? So Riz, but it's also like a little bit cringe. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm shooting for, like being
yeah,
cool, but also a little bit, like different. Where
yeah,
you're like is it cool or is it cringe? And I seem to still be cool. So at least for now, is it not with a 9-year-old?
Yeah, I would say demographic wise, just age range is probably giving you the cringe award right off the bat. So if you're getting anything positive outside of that, then you're doing a good job.
Yeah, yeah. I can't wait till like my son is 14 and I'll make them watch Shaky Caboose, which is my video from 20 years ago. Every time his friends come over, that's going to be horrible and amazing at the same time.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. You'll always have that to kind of both brag and torture them with at the same time somehow.
Exactly. Yeah. I had a friend in high school that every time we went, someone new went to her house. Their parents made us watch some video. I forget what it was, but it was kind of a weird video, but like they just loved it so much that we had to watch it. So I might make one of my songs that thing that every time my son brings a new person over, we have
Yeah,
to sit and watch it.
I like it.
I actually probably care more that they like me that I wouldn't
Yeah.
do that to my son, but in theory, it's a cool idea.
So, is there any plans? I don't really know the reasoning behind the relocation back in the day, but you're firmly planted Ontario resident. Is there any plans to be visiting on the East Coast, or have you had much exposure to the East Coast over the last few years?
So my family is still back in New Brunswick. My parents lived there until just last summer. They just moved up here, so I would visit New Brunswick usually once or twice a year. As far as keeping in touch, I up until the concussion, I was still doing shows when I would go back home, but then the concussion just made things challenging. So
Hmm.
um, keeping it made it hard to like keep in touch and stay like physically hanging out kind of thing in touch with people. But I still like DJ STV, who's a legend in Fredericton. I still message him from time to time and keep in touch, and some different people I keep in touch with. Um, so yeah, I mean, Ottawa is where I am right now. It's beautiful, love it, but it's not the same as Atlantic Canada. I do miss the being in Fredericton. We still have we have a cottage still there, so
Okay.
aiming to hopefully get back there still once a year to soak in the vibes. There's nothing better than being by the ocean. I just
Oh yeah.
love getting to the ocean and that ocean air. And then for our kids, they've been lucky that I haven't always been able to travel with concussion stuff, but my in-laws who are um, born and raised in Ontario, they love the East Coast. So they've taken the kids to Newfoundland, they've taken the kids to PEI, they've gone to
Oh,
Nova
amazing.
Scotia. So our kids have been exposed to the East Coast and they love it there. Newfoundland was their favorite vacation, even though it was, I think, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. They still talk about it as being their best vacation ever.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
exciting. Planning on making the journey over there this year with the show actually for the East Coast Music Awards. They're being held there
Mm-hmm.
in May. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty exciting. I've not, it's shameful to say, but I just said I have plans to go. So I have not yet been to Newfoundland. So
Okay.
that's something I have to remedy in the very near future.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to be there a few times. When I did a cross Canada tour, I had a couple shows there, and then um, the Corner Brook ECMAs in 2009. I was there for that. That was amazing. We rented an Airbnb. It was a few of us, and the owners were like, "Here's some moose meat steak, and here's some mackerel. You just have to defrost them." Like it was just everyone was so friendly. It was it's yeah, it's really nice there.
Amazing.
Sure you'll enjoy it.
And for today, for anyone that's new to you, I suppose the most natural thing to play off with today will be the remix of Clap Your Hands.
Yeah.
So, if anybody wants to follow along and see what else you have going on, do you have multiple accounts to handle the multiple aliases, or is there one
I
primary location?
I do have multiple
Yep.
accounts. for the non-kid stuff, the rap stuff, that would be Brockway Biggs. It's the handle's pretty much universal across everything. I also have a website, brockwaybiggs.com. Have the link tree at Brockway Biggs. And then for the kids side of stuff, it's Mr. Super Dude almost everywhere. It's Mr. Mister Super Dude. And yeah, I've got that the two things going on. So trying to generate some content here and there and share some fun music.
I love the initiative, and it looks like you're completing some dreams that you had and building some new ones at the same time. I am curious to get into that as well before I let you go for the day here. There's a lot of artists on the East Coast that I will see when I'm out and about in these rap situations, or a few different artists that actually are following this show as well. That would be similar level to you when you were down here on the East Coast as well. I'm curious now that you're kind of getting back into it. Obviously, you figured out like digital distribution versus what people would have been doing back in the day. But I'm curious, do you have any specific tips or words of advice for anybody that's new into it? Something that either you would have done different, or did you have an interesting, unique observation being that you were part of an old scene and now getting back into modern 2025 world?
Um, I guess, I mean, tips wise, it's um, take some time to like. There's a sort of a pressure I felt to release music, and there were times where I could have put more effort into the songwriting and
Hmm.
making the words or the message count. I do know that with social media and distribution these days, they say like get the content out there. Um, so I mean, there's got to be a balance there.
Yeah,
So try and stay true to having a message is important, because I see some people releasing music regularly, which is great, but you listen and I don't know, there's maybe not as much of a message there. Uh,
sure.
but again, it all depends on your genre, your style, and all that stuff. Uh,
It's taking
yeah,
time to make what you want to make more so than making what you think you're supposed to make.
yeah, well done.
Yeah, I have a little bit of I can kind of relate a little bit on the content creation end side of that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, things are so much different than when back in 2005, I won the ECMA. Just getting a music video was such a big thing back then. And
Hmm.
now it's all about like anyone can create a video in theory. And like now it's so much about constant content creation and it's short clips,
Yeah,
which I love from like a creative, um, like building interaction kind of thing. At the same time, it is as an I guess having been around for a while, it is a little bit daunting. It does feel at times like it's a young person's game. Not that I'm super old or anything, but being in my 40s, yeah, I can see how if you were in high school or university, you're just at that age where you're the content and being able to collaborate and connect. I feel like there's a bit of an advantage there,
yeah.
um, which is great. Like build on that foundation at that young time, and then keep stacking up. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's really fascinating to see the changes that have happened over the last 20 years.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because we are around the same age, so it'll be interesting to see 20 years from now
Hmm.
what the music scene looks like. Forget about the rest of
Yeah,
the world even, but just the few touch points that we talked about and the few differences that we didn't even really get into, but we're both fully aware of. I can only imagine how much different things are going to be 20 years from now.
yeah, I'm excited and well interested to see how things are going to evolve,
Yeah,
because it opens doors to some, but it's going to make it more challenging, I think, for others in the
yeah,
years.
for sure.
So always feel like musicians have to work the hardest to make to make it, but with being a musician, you have this community and connectivity that people who might work less for maybe more like financial or what, don't have that community and connection. That was one of the things I loved the most about being involved with music, was just getting to know people, like supporting people, bartering. Like I could do publicity for someone and they do something for me. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah. Collaboration in the arts world, it almost makes up for the lower income levels.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't seem fair because you actually are working harder, but it definitely is something that seems to be universal. It's definitely not limited to Canada.
No.
It's just an artistic thing.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me on here. Kudos to you. I noticed that you used to number the episodes. I think you stopped numbering them at like 20 or something.
It stopped a while ago just because the numbers didn't mean anything after a while.
Yeah.
So,
but you've been so consistent week after week, and I see that with some of the DJs that I've known who put out radio shows, like DJ Ducats here in Ottawa has put out radio shows every Friday for over 30 years. DJ STV in Fredericton has been doing it on CHSR for over 30 years. And just the dedication that requires, and it's very selfless for the most part. That I appreciate you doing this and taking the time.
Well, I appreciate the recognition and thanks for reaching out. And let me know in the future how things are going. Like where I'm not in the Ottawa area, I might not hear all the highlights. But hopefully I hear your name again in the future, and I'll be keeping an eye out to see if any new singles pop up towards the end of the year.
That sounds good. If Mr. Super Dude hits a tour through the East Coast, I'll expect you there in the front row. VIP.
Great. Perfect. All right. Thanks again, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter and you need a babysitter, don't call me up to me with your demands. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter and you need a babysitter, don't call me up to me with your demands. My fans support me like a cult. You're Red Riding Hood, I'm the wolf. You don't like that, so I flip you off. Now you're the wolf, I'm Alex Cross. Run tie ship and a skip with a blue nose. I get more props than a model in pantyhose. Lyrics in the lane, you know I devour. Pulling out stops like Johnny Bauer. You can take shots, but I'll always deflect them. Even road dirthead Stevens to protect them. I'm on my own, but fan support. Even more than O's if Theodore. At least before I became a Rogaine. I'm more like a Bobby Orr. Offensive, defensive, and furthermore, the game is over if you knew the score. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter and you need a babysitter, don't call me up to me with your demands. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter and you need a babysitter, don't call me up to me with your demands. I'm not pimping in purple like Johnny McDonald. I hold a truck, but don't call me Donald. Back and hips is what must get bundled. Ladies love me, so lingerie gets modeled. Work real hard, so I end up a winner. I'm so fly, toothbrush, got a spinner. Solve problems harder than a revolver. It's not mathematics, but the way that I bought her. I'm so real, I'm on the periodic table. In it slot 4 like my name is Abel. Got magic like Mad Hatter's got tricks? Yeah, I'm Brockway Biggs. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter and you need a babysitter, don't call me up to me with your demands. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter, clap your hands. If you're lazy and you're bitter and you need a babysitter, don't call me up to me with your demands. I'm Hotter than matches on stolen cigs, yeah. I'm Brockway Biggs. I got punchlines like Roberto Alomar, spitting harder than over at Kandahar. Solid as water at absolute zero. Everyone be looking at me to be the hero. I'm no joke, so you know I'm with a finger. Leave you broke like you're the dead ringer. I can't deny I'm talking about CSI. I'm not 3'6", but my fans know I'm fly. I got more hype than the dirty south, so here's my in your mouth.